You can't hold me back, you can't hold me down. Put me in the game, gotta get it right now. You can't hold me back, you can't hold me down. Put me in the game, gotta get it right now. Whoa, on me, you know I'm the one and only. All them other ones is phony. Moving like a drum, I'm on beat. Whoa, yeah, you could put the pressure on me.
Hello and welcome to Grace and Audacity with Andrina. I am your host, Andrina, and I appreciate you joining me today. If you're new, welcome to my channel. I'll tell you a little bit about what we do here in a few minutes. But if you're not new, then in my head I was like, I should just apologize, right? But I'm not gonna apologize because life happens. So this is a statement of fact, confession, call it what you want. But I just have not been consistent with this platform, and it's time that I just am honest about that, right? When I started this last year, well, I think a year and a half ago, my goal was to create new content every single Sunday. It was going to be a space for people who were like-minded, entrepreneurs, believers, kind of navigating through some things. But then I realized I just don't have the bandwidth or expertise, right? Like editing and all of that, to keep this going like I intended for it to go. So I've made peace with that. I've reconciled that, but I will still continue to use it as a creative outlet, right? Life lessons, current events, faith, intersection, the whole 9 yards. But it just will not be, I won't add the expectation of I'm going to do this every single week. That doesn't mean I'm not going to be intentional as possible. It just means that I'm actually just going to not hold myself to that standard anymore. And hopefully that's okay. Now, again, if you're new and you just happen to come across this channel was designed, still is, designed to be a space where me, as a woman of color who is a believer, who is an entrepreneur, an author, and all the things, is meant to talk about life. I happen to enjoy conversations about current events as it pertains to life as a believer and all the things that I mentioned. So I try to lend my voice to things from a wide range of stuff, like from hip hop to entrepreneurship to church culture to all the things. So if you go through the library on this channel, you're going to find a bunch of random things, and it's seemingly like all disconnected, but there is a common thread of like, how do we input into this for anybody that can relate to all the intersections that I stand at, that you might stand at too. All of that said, I'm excited to do this new video. And this new video is, oh my goodness, y'all. I can't believe it, but you can tell from the title, it is the top, I'm going to say 3 things and see where this goes. But that I've learned in my 30s because I turned 40 years old this week. Y'all, it is unreal for me to say that because I vividly remember talking to someone that I think is maybe about 6 or 7 years older than me. And I was about 28 years old. And I told her, I said, when I turn 30, that's when I have to get my life together. That's officially when I'm grown and I don't have any more excuses. I remember having that conversation with her. And I remember her telling me like, girl, see, you're a baby. Like, you're fine. There's a whole lot of things that 30 is not the end all be all. Okay. And I think about that now because 30 came and gone, whatever. And now I'm looking at 40 years old. In my heart, I still feel like a kid, right? I don't think I'm an immature person. I am a little bit youthful and playful, but I just cannot believe, by the grace of God, that I turned 40 this year. So for anyone that cares to, I'd just like to go over some of the things that I've learned that have freed me to be in a space now where 40 is not a dread for me like 30 was. I'm in disbelief because I feel like I was 18 like 2 days ago. But, the things that I've learned. And the first thing that I've learned is kind of the summary of what I just said earlier, which is that time waits for no man. So if you are under the age of 40, if you're under the age of 30, 25 right now, savor it. Like, take it all in, do all the things, right? I know society has their prescription and the formula, and you should have gotten several degrees, married, 5 figures sitting in your bank account savings, 2.5 children, the dog, the fence, the whole 9 yards. But life happens so fast, like it comes at you so fast. And I really do believe it. I would not change anything about my last 40 years because if it didn't help me, it taught me. But learn, like, it doesn't wait for any person. So savor your moments. I will say this about regrets. So one of my biggest regrets is that so much of my life was curated in my 30s, right? Because I was in the trenches of entrepreneurship. Don't regret that either. But like a lot of stuff just had to be like so perfect. And so I did not spend as much time as I probably should have just being present. So if I weren't at an event or something, even if it was like girls' movie night, at some point there had to be a photo op, right? It had to be a selfie just so I can make sure I get that content up. And I just think about now where I am. There are weeks I don't post, there are days, there's no story, there's no nothing from me. Not because I don't have anything to do in life, but because I literally have learned the power of just being in the moment, right? If it's recorded for personal nostalgia that I want to reference later, not for public consumption. And so time waits for no man. I think that has been um one of the lessons. Not I think it has been one of the lessons. Now the morbid flip side to that, obviously, time waits for no man, and so none of us are guaranteed anything in terms of timing on earth. And so live each day, like live it up. YOLO, I know that's kind of old verbiage because I'm the auntie now, but like live it up because you just fleeting. It's fleeting. So that's the first lesson. The second lesson is free yourself from society standards, right? So approaching 40, I am an unmarried woman who is living life and, living life right now. And if someone had asked me at 26 when I was in a serious relationship, if at 40 I would not be married with children, I'd probably be like, are you nuts? Because I had the 5-year plan, the 10-year plan, and all the things, right? And again, no regrets because I see the Lord's grace and I see his preparation and I see the value and the blessings of where I am in life. But I probably 10, 15 years ago, I was kind of like, you're nutty. Like you're go somewhere. Um, so I lived some of my 30s, most of my 30s, if I'm honest, kind of quietly resenting that, hoping that, kind of the peak of my life would come when I got those things. And as I'm hoping that that would be the peak of my life as a marriage and the kids and all that, I look back and I'm like, there are so many things that the Lord has allowed me to do that were that my lot, right? Was that my path in life? I just would not have been able to do. The other day, a friend of mine called me. She wanted to do something really, really last minute. And she has older kids, so she has, the freedom to just kind of pack up and leave and with her husband's blessing. And I literally, in like 2 hours, I was packed and I was ready to go. And just kind of hit me, right? Not in a like tell yourself this to make yourself feel better way, but it just really hit me that I have been afforded so many freedoms just because of my lifestyle. And so 30s allowed me to do literally as many things as my resources and the grace of God will allow me to do without any restrictions. If there were restrictions to what I could do, it was either because of financial restrictions or timing restrictions, scheduling restrictions. But in terms of like the accountability of my life and the routine and the rigidness of it, I just live without any of those constraints. And so society will tell you, going back to the lesson, right? Society will tell you that you must do these things. And if you're like me, you'll beat yourself up about not doing those things, sometimes not by choice, as it were in my case for a lot of my 30s, just because it just was what it was, until you realize, what am I beating myself up for? Everybody has a different path in life. And not only is that like the beauty of like diversity in life experiences, but it's literally a reflection of the fact that we serve a really, really big God who's writing all these incredible stories with all these different chapters. And as we are submitted to him, they all bring him glory and they're all for our good, according to Jeremiah 29:11. And that is beautiful. Now, I will say, if you're watching this and you're like in your mid to late 30s, early 40s, 50s, and you're like, yeah, I'm just kind of waiting on the Lord, and you hear this kind of like rhetoric sometimes, um, I had to learn how to filter it because I've learned there's like a segment, right, of people who are in a similar life path who say these things because it's a way to make themselves feel better. right? So, transparency moment. There was a couple of years where dating was really hard for me, not because the Lord was making me wait, but because I had a lot of stuff I had to work on: communication, openness, right? Forgiveness, all these things. And so when people would question me about like, why aren't you married? And da 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 da, I would say, well, I'm just waiting for the Lord. And it sounded super righteous and it sounded like the right thing to say, but it was avoidance, right? And it kept me from having to deal with the things. So all of the things that I'm saying in point number two is not as a way for us to kind of like bypass or hide from some of the things that might have kept some of us in our 30s and 40s and 50s from getting those things, but as a reality check that that's just not the formula that God has for everybody, and that is okay. I remember when a married friend of mine, she didn't say these words, but she basically implied, she was like, I really am jealous of the fact that you have so much freedom in life. And then, that friend and another friend at some point said to me, like, I think you look really youthful because, I don't have a lot of wrinkles and stuff. I'm not bragging, I'm just saying, um, because you don't have any kids. And the way that they both said it was a little bit of like a hint of regret, not with their kids, but at the fact that they're just like, yeah, you just kind of, the grass is always greener on the other side. It was kind of one of those things. Never thought about it until the first time that comment was made. So these are all vain reasons. There are deeper reasons that I won't get into now. But for things like that, those superficial, I'm like, it's okay, right? Like there's a blessing regardless of the path that the Lord has ready for you. I think there's immense freedom in that. And the quicker we learn that, the better. The third, and I think maybe the final reason that I will lesson that I will share from my 30s is that growth never stops. I live in the US, right? I come from a West African family, but I live in the US. And a lot of like culturally, right? A lot of what we do is like framed around what adulthood looks like. So there are these very specific and almost rigid benchmarks. At 18, you are legally an adult and you are expected to go to college or find a trade or work or whatever. And for most people, this is when they start throwing around things like, I'm grown, right? So I could live on my own. I could do all the things. At 21, you could drink. I'm grown. You can't tell me a thing, right? At 25, you might have been done with undergrad or graduate school, and now you're looking to settle down with the husband and the kids, or wife and kids if you're a man. So there are these like specific things. At 30, this is like the culmination of all the things, and you're supposed to show all the freedom that you have. Um, and what I learned though is that really stunts a lot of people. Put a lot of pressure on myself about all the things that I should have known. I hit a financial crisis in my mid 30s that I was like, what the heck? And on top of the stress of like not having the resources to move the way I wanted to, there was so much shame about like my life should look different at this stage of life. And I hid in that for a minute until I realized there are people, men and women, who are 10, 15 years older than I am, who are having the same internal dialogue. I should have done it different. My life should be looking different by now. And so someone told us a lie along the way that by a certain age, we should have it all figured out. But the lesson, final lesson I will share, is that growth never ends. Nobody did. All of us have like such different contexts. Some of us come from single parent homes. Some of us came from dual parent homes. Some of us are dealing with first generational stuff that we had to navigate. Some of us watched a parent who was a stellar example, but they were absent. And there's so many factors, right? The economy is completely out of your control. There are so many things in this life. And I'm just kind of realizing that the the lie that we were supposed to have it all figured out is exactly that. It's a lie. So as I'm knocking on 40's door, I have made peace with the fact that one, it's a lie, but two, that I am the best the best stewardship posture that I can take is to understand that I am always learning. I'll share a quick tip, right? I know there's a big to do about AI and Christian faith and da 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 da, da whatever. But I have made it a practice to use ChatGPT as a professional development tool. So there's a specific thread among all the other things that I use it for, that's titled Andrina's Personal/Professional Development. And I have these exchanges where I'm practicing more self-awareness with ChatGPT. The other day, I had a situation. It's a bit contentious with someone that I met at a networking event. A little bit of a power struggle, right? We're both like high performing women with high expectations and clear goals in life. And so I took it to chat and I was like, this is what happened. Was I wrong? Like, how do I process this? Because that's what this is for, right? I asked the tough questions that I might not either have someone to ask or I just made me feel comfortable, right? With that level of transparency. And chat says to me that I was at a critical intersection or critical juncture where I have to decide if I wanted to wear the hat of consultant or if I just wanted to wear the hat of human. It didn't put it that eloquently. Those were my words, right? Injuring the writer. But that's essentially what it said was you were at a juncture where you had to either treat the exchange as a professional or it's just a human who was just being a little bit more gracious, right? Consultant being like the bottom line driven person and sticking with the strategies, or a human who was just more abstract. And this is the learning lesson, right? Or the teaching moment was that I had never thought about the fact that there were exchanges in life that would require me to consciously choose, right? And to consciously turn off the switch. I know that in theory. Obviously, we all know that as professionals who come home and we clock out of work, but I'd never taken that close. I've never taken a look that closely. And I've never taken a look at how adaptive I'd become in my everyday human interactions, where sometimes I don't turn off the consultant hat. And so chat went on to say, well, these are some patterns that I noticed, some other prompts that you sent me, and it gave me some very clear things. And I was mad at chat for a little bit, and then I realized chat is right. Chat is right. And 5 years ago, Andrina would have beat herself up like, you spent so much time and money in professional development courses. Why don't you know that? Right. A little bit of gate, a little bit of shame, a little bit of like, what's the word? Attached to that. But this time around, it was like I don't know what I don't know. And at 40, if I'm just learning this part and becoming more self-aware, one, there's immense grace in that, right, for me to even have my eyes open that I can receive that. But also, it's an opportunity for me to do better. So that at 45, when I share a new set of things that I've learned between 40 and 45 by the grace of God, I can share that with the knowledge that even at 45, I wouldn't have arrived. There'd be so much more that I still have to learn in life. All of that to say, 40 is coming with a lot of freedom. And I love that for me. But it's also coming with me being more open to being shaped. And it's coming with a maturity that comes right naturally with age, right? In time. But it's also coming with like a youthfulness that the freedom has allowed me. So do I feel 40 in terms of what we're supposed to feel at 40? Because you're middle age at this point is what they tell us, and all the things, all the terms. I do not feel that. Um, Told somebody the other day, I was turning 40 next week, and they were like, oh, they're giving you at least 32. I ran into one of the young adults at my church. She's 22. And I was like, yeah. She was like, what are you going to do for your birthday? And I told her, and she said, I still can't get over the fact I'm my age. And I take these compliments, right? Knowing good and well that some of them might be exaggerations. But I received them anyway, because I think that with all that I went through in my 20s and all that I went through in my 30s, life really could have beaten me up. And I could have looked like life would have beaten me up. And I could have moved through the motions like life has beaten me up. But I really am grateful to God for the fact that there is an essence, right, that he has allowed me that won't allow me to be beaten up. Yeah, I think my hands have been ashy this whole time. And if they have been distracting, I'm so sorry. But I'm not going to re-record this. So that's what it is. Anyway, I hope you all have enjoyed this. I hope some of it resonated with you. And feel girl, right? Good place, good place. Not perfect place, but good place. And I hope you all have a wonderful and a blessed week. All right.
Pressure on me, I ain't never getting cold feet. Straight to where I'm gon' be. I got no time to debate. I put my reps in like every day. I keep it moving, I don't like the way. I just keep adding these wins to the plate. I ain't worried about a setback. What a loss, I'ma get back.